Picture this. It is April 13th, 2026. Paris to Roubaix. 160 miles of France's worst roads. Cobblestones so brutal that mechanics tape every bolt on the bike twice before the start. And there, in the chaos of the final 50 kilometers, is the most dominant athlete in professional cycling. Tadej Pogačar, wearing the rainbow jersey of world champion, having already punctured twice, having already changed bikes twice, looking like a man who just got hit by a truck and is somehow still winning the argument. He does not win that day. Wout van Aert beats him in the velodrome sprint. But Pogačar's reaction? He just nods, already thinking about the next race. That is who this man is. Now I want you to hold that image. Pogačar, unbreakable, at the absolute outer edge of human endurance. And ask one question with me. What if he took off those cycling shoes and ran a marathon instead? Today we answer that question. Not with guesswork, with physiology, with history, and with three-time predictions that I think are going to surprise you. Stay with me, because one of them is genuinely uncomfortable. To understand what Pogačar could do on foot, you first have to understand what he already is on two wheels. The story starts in a place most people cannot find on a map. Komenda, a small town north of Ljubljana, Slovenia. Famous for essentially nothing until 2009, when a 9-year-old boy followed his older brother to cycling practice and made every other junior in the country feel deeply inadequate. From the beginning, something about him was different. Not just physically, mentally. Medalist Andre Houtman once told the story of spotting a tiny kid at a junior race, sitting 100 meters behind the lead group on a climb, and instead of coasting to a respectable finish, this kid was redlining just to close the gap. He did not make it that day, but the coaches could not stop talking about him. By 18, he had won the Tour de l'Avenir, cycling's unofficial label for future Tour de France winner. By 21, he did exactly that, but not quietly. Do you know what happened on September 19th, 2020? Because in terms of pure human drama, this moment rivals anything we have ever seen in sport. It is the penultimate stage of the Tour de France. A 36-kilometer time trial ending on the brutal slopes of La Planche des Belles Filles. Primož Roglič, Pogačar's own countryman in the yellow jersey, starts the stage with a 57-second lead. His team is calm. The race, they believe, is over. What follows is one of the most scientifically staggering performances in modern endurance sport. After nearly 3 weeks of Grand Tour racing, Pogačar sustains an estimated 6.5 watts per kilogram on the final climb. Power outputs most professionals can barely produce when fresh. Second by second, Roglič's lead evaporates. 50 seconds gone. 30, 10, 0. And then the impossible. Pogačar overtakes him. Final gap, 1 minute and 21 seconds. The yellow jersey was stripped away live on television. Roglič sat down at the finish and cried. Pogačar's coach, Ienyo San Milan, later described his metabolism as existing in a separate category entirely. Where other riders run at 8,000 revolutions, Pogačar runs at 3,000, with gears still in reserve. Tudor Pro Cycling's nutrition expert Tim Podlogar was more direct. He said, "His physiology seems completely unimaginable to me." By 2026, he has won 4 Tour de France, 3 consecutive Tours of Flanders equaling the all-time record, and 12 monument victories total. Still in his late 20s, even Mathieu van der Poel, his greatest rival in the cobbled classics, said, "He is not Merckx, he is Pogačar." That is the man we are talking about today. Now let us talk about his body. VO2 Max, the maximum rate at which your body can consume oxygen. Think of it as engine size. A sedentary adult scores around 35 to 40 milliliters per kilogram per minute. A fit amateur cyclist reaches 65 to 70. Tour winners like Froome and Indurain have been reported in the high 80s. Greg LeMond reportedly tested around 92. Independent analyses of Pogacar's power output on Tour de France climbs, working backward from his sustained 30 to 40-minute mountain efforts, converge on an estimated VO2 max near 96 milliliters per kilogram per minute. Never officially confirmed. But the math keeps landing in the same place. Here is something almost nobody knows. The highest confirmed VO2 max ever recorded belongs to a Norwegian junior cyclist named Oskar Svendsen. At 18 years old, he tested at 97.5 in a laboratory. The scientific community was stunned. A case study was published. Experts declared him the next great cyclist of his generation. He retired at 19 to go to university. The biggest aerobic engine ever measured in history switched off voluntarily. That story has a dark twist that matters enormously to our question today. We are coming back to it. Back to Pogacar. 66 kilograms at Tour racing weight. Body fat around 6 to 7%. 25 to 30 hours of training per week. During races, his team fuels him with up to 120 grams of carbohydrate per hour. His heart, lungs, and mitochondria are at the absolute frontier of what a human body can do. So why would he not just run a 2-hour marathon and rewrite history? That is exactly the right question. And the answer is where this gets genuinely interesting.
Here is the single most important concept in this entire video. It will change how you think about athletic performance. It is called running economy, not VO2 max, not raw power. Running economy. Running economy measures how much oxygen your body needs to cover 1 kilometer at a given speed. Think of it as fuel efficiency, not engine size. Two runners with identical VO2 max values can differ by 20 to 30 minutes over a marathon purely because one converts oxygen into forward motion more efficiently. That gap lives in the mechanics, the way the foot strikes the ground, the way the Achilles tendon loads and releases energy like a spring, the neuromuscular patterns refined over years of accumulated impact loading. A landmark 1980 study by Conley and Krahenbuhl found something extraordinary. Within a group of highly trained runners whose VO2 max values were almost identical, differences in running economy explained about 2/3 of the variation in race performance. 2/3. Engine size barely mattered. Efficiency was everything. Untrained runners need roughly 10 to 20% more oxygen per kilometer than trained runners at the same pace. And Pogacar as a cyclist has essentially none of those running-specific adaptations built up. Here is what a cyclist's body actually is from a running perspective. Cycling is a concentric sport. Muscles push and pull in a closed loop. No impacts. The Achilles tendon, which acts as a high-performance spring in running, is barely loaded during years of pedaling. The plantar fascia, the tibialis anterior along the shin, the gluteus medius at the hip, all critical running structures, chronically understimulated by time on the bike. When a cyclist transitions to running, what happens is predictable and painful. The connective tissue system has never absorbed high-impact loads. Wolff's law tells us bone remodels under stress. Davis's law tells us tendons and fascia do the same. But both processes are slow. Research shows that meaningful increases in tendon stiffness do not appear until after 2 to 3 months of consistent loading. Full structural robustness in a running context takes closer to a year, sometimes several years. This is exactly where elite cyclists get hurt when they try to run. Not in the heart, not in the lungs, in the shins, in the Achilles, in the foot. The engine revs, the chassis cracks.
Now what actually happened when some of the most decorated cyclists in history strapped on running shoes? Because the historical record here is revealing. Lance Armstrong. Whatever you think of his legacy, his physiology was extraordinary. VO2 max estimated in the low 80s. Aerobic base built across 2 decades of professional racing. In 2009, with modest running preparation,
He finished the New York City Marathon in 2 hours and 59 minutes. 2 years later, 2 hours and 46 minutes. Those are remarkable numbers for a cyclist. But here is the one that puts it in context. Kipchoge's official world record is 2 hours, 0 minutes, 35 seconds. Armstrong's best was nearly 46 minutes slower. Laurent Jalabert, a Vuelta a España winner and one of the most versatile cyclists of the 1990s, ran the New York City Marathon in 2 hours 55 minutes as a retired athlete. Remarkable by any normal standard. Not remotely close to elite marathon territory. The pattern is consistent. An extraordinary aerobic base gets you to a remarkable time. It does not get you to the front of the World Championship start line.
And now, back to Oskar Svendsen. Here is the dark twist. When scientists published his case study, they found something nobody expected. His gross cycling efficiency, the percentage of his metabolic energy that actually translated into power on the pedals, was lower than several peers with significantly smaller VO2 max values. His engine was enormous. But the transmission leaked. That is the exact risk shadowing any Pogacar marathon scenario. The biggest aerobic engine in the sport might not have the running-specific transmission to use it. A Ferrari engine still needs an aerodynamic body. 3 scenarios, based on the physiology, the historical cases, and the science of tissue adaptation. Scenario 1. He races tomorrow with 0 running preparation. In the first 10 kilometers, his heart and lungs are cruising. The problem is his stride is already costing 10 to 15% more oxygen per kilometer than a trained runner at the same pace. By halfway, eccentric muscle damage in the quads and calves forces him to slow. By 35 kilometers, the chassis fails. Hips drop. Foot strike turns into a shuffle. The engine can still go. The body cannot. Realistic finishing time, 2 hours 45 to 3 hours 10. Scenario 2. 6 months of structured marathon training. Neuromuscular patterns improve dramatically. Running economy shifts from novice towards strong club runner, roughly an 8 to 10% efficiency gain. Tendon adaptation is meaningful, but incomplete. Realistic time, 2 hours 25 to 2 hours 35 on a flat course. Extraordinary for 6 months of preparation. Still 15 to 20 minutes slower than the Olympic automatic qualifying standard. Scenario 3. 3 to 4 years of full specialization. 160 to 220 kilometers per week. Altitude camps, plyometrics, 8 to 10 marathons. His entire athletic identity rebuilt from the ground up. Using Michael Joyner's classic performance modeling framework, with a slightly adjusted VO2 max to account for the efficiency trade-off and running economy approaching but not quite matching Kipchoge's values, the calculation lands between 2 hours 3 and 2 hours 7 minutes, among the greatest marathon performances in history, still short of Kelvin Kiptum's world record of 2 hours, 0 minutes, 35 seconds. There is a deeper lesson hiding in this thought experiment, and it is not really about Pogacar. We live in an era where data makes us believe the athlete with the biggest number is the best. But the research keeps telling a more uncomfortable story. Conley and Cranboul showed engine size barely predicted outcomes in a homogeneous elite group. Svendsen's case showed the highest engine ever measured quit the sport, while riders with smaller engines won the Tour de France. Pogacar is not great because of a number. He is great because 2 decades of accumulated stress have made every system in his body perfectly calibrated for one task. Change the task, and most of that calibration disappears. The body is not a general-purpose machine. It is a highly specialized instrument, tuned for one song. On foot tomorrow, he would run a 2 hours 50-something marathon and probably injure his Achilles in the process. With 6 months, faster than almost any recreational runner alive, and still 30 minutes from the Olympics. With 4 years, he might crack 2 hours 5 and make history. But he would no longer be Pogačar the cyclist. He would be someone else entirely. And I think that is exactly what makes the original version so worth watching. Before you go, if this kind of deep physiological breakdown is what you are here for, the next video is already waiting for you. It is called The Real Reason Kipchoge Never Gets Injured. At 41 years old, Eliud Kipchoge has a mitochondrial profile most 30-year-olds simply cannot match. That video goes inside the physiology of the greatest marathon runner in history. Why his VO2 max has not collapsed with age, how he survived 22 years of elite racing without a single career-ending breakdown, and what his recovery system reveals about the science most runners completely ignore. Link is on screen right now. I am Sebastian from the Injury Breakdown. Subscribe if you want more of this, and I will see you in the next one.